Bet you almost forgot what I look like. Hey guys, I'm back, and I know it has been a long, long time. It's been since right before Christmas before I've done a video. Are you crooked? Let me see. Don't want to mess with it too much. I've got it precariously set up here. Anyhow, as you can tell by the title, I'm here to talk about just some things that have been going on in my life. For one, I have suffered from irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, for years and years and years. The first time I can remember suffering from it and actually being diagnosed, even though they didn't call it that back then, was when I was 4 years old. And IBS, a lot of times there's a correlation between childhood abuse and IBS. And IBS is just one of those things that carries with you forever. It's like a virus. You just have it. It's your body's mechanism to deal with stress. I grew up in a home where I wasn't allowed to get mad. I wasn't allowed to voice my opinions. I was never allowed to say no. And so throughout the years, I had so much gastrointestinal problems that there were days that it was hard for me to function, or else I would allow my stress to come out in different ways that maybe made me seem the class clown, or just kind of being out on a limb of things that probably were really, really inappropriate for somebody my age to do. Fast forward, in my teen years, it developed more into an eating disorder. I can remember saying to people, and I did not have parents that were very connected with me. They were pretty prominent members of our local society where I grew up, but for me, and I'm not making this up, there's been validation from so many directions on this. There was just a disconnect. So if I told people, oh, well, you know, every time I get above a certain weight, my body just throws up. Now, if you had a teenage girl who said that to you, wouldn't that put a red flag up? I think so. There was a time I had an IBS flare that was so bad, and this was during my first marriage, that ended not well. That I went from 130 pounds down to 95 pounds in a matter of just a couple months. The idea of putting food in my mouth just literally made me sick. And I would have all these gastrointestinal problems. Not the stuffy kind, but the other kind. So off and on, I have battled these problems. And finally, 2008 was such a bad year for me that I was not only suffering these symptoms, but I was also, it planted itself in my head to the point where I couldn't get bad thoughts out of my head. I couldn't get into life because I had these bad thoughts in my head. You know, I was going to lose people around me. I was going to die. I was going to yada, yada, yada. And I would have people say, well, you just need to trust in the Lord. You just need to pray more about it. You need to do this, that, or the other. And I happen to be a very spiritual person. I do think God gave me Jesus and that I need to be the best Christ follower I can. But my perception of God and Jesus was not that you don't feel pain and that you don't suffer the consequences of your past. So my husband went with me, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor put me on an antidepressant and also put me on reflux medication, and I followed a IBS GERD diet for about a month, and things cleared up. And life was really good. My family was growing. I was able to handle the ups and downs that come just in life in general because, you're not happy all the time. But I didn't linger there. Well, for my 55th birthday, it was my 60th birthday. For my 60th birthday, my goal was to start weaning myself off of my antidepressant and weaning myself off my reflux medication, because in our family, it's like if you're on these medications, then you're just not a strong person. I mean, my grandmother lived to be 100. My great-great-grandmother lived to be 100 and prided themselves on not going to the doctor. So last April, I started elimination diets, I started exercise, but I would still have all these problems. And I would be in the frame of mind where I could wake up happy and just really thankful for everything that I had, and things would go good, and then some very small thing would just plummet me into a depression. And at this point, I was not taking my medication at all. I mean, I had been strong and weaned myself off medication. And then I started developing worse and worse and worse IBS symptoms until it came to the point where I personally would keep home fecal tests in the medicine cabinet. It's like, where maybe you only have to do Cologuard once a year. I was doing every couple months or whatever. I mean, that's how bad things were getting for me. And so finally, I had a talk with one of my sons. I had a talk with my best friend. I talked to my husband, although he can detach from those kind of things. It's like he doesn't like stress things, so he just does the shutdown mechanism thing by and large. Unless he's causing the stress, if you've watched his other channel. I started back on my medication, and I feel great. I still do have to watch what I eat some, of course, but I'm 62, I'll be 63, and so you know what? If onions don't totally always agree with me, that's okay. Onions don't always have to totally agree with me. And I still have some days where things are going really, really great. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, I had a really, really, really great day. Got a lot done, was crocheting, was reading, watching YouTubes, got a lot done around the house, and the dog got out of the fence. And my husband being angry plummeted me into this oh my gosh, this is just the worst day ever. This is just horrible. Worst day of my life. And I had to stop and catch myself and realize what I was doing, and continue processing through these thoughts of being a codependent and allowing myself to feel it's okay to take medication when you suffer from depression, and it's okay to have something wrong with your body that requires medication, especially if it can directly attribute to something that you had no control over as a child whatsoever. So here I am, and I wanted to get the story out there. I wanted to tell everybody that it's okay. It's okay if mental health has been put on the back burner and you feel guilty about it. And it's okay that if you have something that is attributed to something that happened in your past and causes you pain and anguish, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to be angry about it. And it's okay to sometimes just let it sit there. And sometimes it's okay to just let it make you feel bad for a while, because some things just really are bad. But don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Don't feel like you have to put on the happy face for everybody. Don't feel like you have to please everybody. Don't feel like you are less than because your body requires this kind of care, when not everybody's body does require this kind of care. Read tools, learning tools on how to cope with different things, different triggers that you have. I know that there are some things that do trigger me. I learned that from my son, who was in Iraq, when I could see how his eyes changed and know something has triggered him. And I've learned to know my body enough when something triggers me. So anyhow, all this to say is, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm taking very good care of myself. I have a new grandbaby that's just adorable. He was born on Christmas Eve. I don't get to see him as much as I want to. I don't get to see some of my grandchildren as much as I want to, such as the nature of everything that's going on around us. I'm an empath, which makes it easy to see both sides of a coin, but painful when people turn against each other because of all the politics and all the beliefs that are going on and all the uglies in the world. So, anyhow, I'm okay. And I hope you're okay. And if there's anything I can ever say or do to help you be okay, then you can private message me. You can leave a comment. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV, but I do have a shoulder to cry on. And I do have lots of words of encouragement. So you all take care. I'll probably be back on more now. I hope so. I've been crocheting up a storm. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. All right? Bye.